The person with all the answers is the most dangerous person in the room. You've sat across from them in a meeting, their confidence a polished shield against any real inquiry. You've also sat there with a knot in your stomach, a question on your lips you were afraid to ask because everyone else seemed to understand. By the end of this video, you will see that knot in your stomach for what it is, your most valuable corporate asset. Think about the last time you were in a high-stakes meeting. The air is thick with assumptions and acronyms. A slide goes up, dense with charts you've never seen before. Then the spotlight swings to you. The boss, a client, a senior executive asks, "What's your take on the downstream impact of this?" And in that split second, your brain runs 1,000 panicked calculations. You have three options. You can bluff, stringing together buzzwords in a plausible sounding sentence. You can deflect, posing a vague question back to the group. Or you can do the one thing your entire career has trained you to avoid. You can tell the truth. This fear, that cold dread of being exposed as the one person who doesn't get it, is universal. We build entire careers on projecting certainty. We see expertise as an inventory of answers we carry around. The more answers we have, the more valuable we are. This is the core belief that runs our professional world. It also happens to be a lie. A very, very expensive lie. What if the cost of pretending you know is infinitely higher than the cost of admitting you don't? In 2006, Ford Motor Company was on the verge of collapse. It was projected to lose $17 billion in a single year. Its stock was in free fall. Its credit was downgraded to junk status. The company that put the world on wheels was running out of road. Into this crisis stepped a new chief executive officer, Alan Mulally. He was an outsider, an aerospace engineer from Boeing who knew how to build airplanes, but supposedly knew nothing about cars. One of his first acts was to institute a mandatory weekly meeting called the Business Plan Review. He had all his top executives from around the world fly into Dearborn, Michigan, every single Thursday. Each executive had to present a simple color-coded chart on the status of their division's goals. Green meant on track. Yellow meant there were some issues. Red meant a program was off track, with no clear plan to fix it. The first few meetings were a sea of green. Every single executive, from North America to Europe to Asia, presented a chart full of green lights. Green, green, green. Meanwhile, the company was hemorrhaging billions. Mulally was puzzled. He looked at the sea of green and then at the financial reports showing a multi-billion-dollar loss. The numbers on the screen and the numbers on the balance sheet told two completely different stories. He stopped the meeting. "We are going to lose $17 billion this year," he said calmly. "Is there anything that's not going well here?" Silence. The executives were playing by the old rules. In the old Ford culture, the messenger of bad news was often the first casualty. Admitting a problem was a career-ending move. So, they created a performance of success, a weekly ritual of collective denial. The system was designed to hide the truth. But how do you fix a problem that no one will admit exists? Then, a few weeks in, something happened. The head of Ford Americas, Mark Fields, stood up to present. His division was in charge of a critical new vehicle launch, the Ford Edge. On his slide, next to the launch plan, was a bright red box. He explained that a production issue with a hinge was going to delay the launch. The room went dead silent. You could feel the collective intake of breath. Everyone was watching Mulally, expecting him to explode. They expected Fields to be publicly reprimanded, maybe even fired on the spot. This was it, the moment of truth for the entire culture. Mulally looked at the red chart. Then he looked at Fields. He started to applaud. "Mark," he said, his voice carrying across the silent room. "Thank you for the visibility into that problem." He didn't ask who was to blame. He asked, "What can we do as a team to help you solve this?" In that moment, with that one response, the entire culture of a 100-year-old company began to shift. Mulally applauded a failure. He celebrated a problem. He rewarded the truth. But applause is one thing, tangible change is another. So what actually happens when the truth is allowed in the room? The very next week, the charts began to change. Another executive presented a red item, then another. Soon, the weekly reviews were a rainbow of red, yellow, and green. They were messy. They were honest. The meetings transformed. They stopped being a performance of success and became a workshop for solving the company's most urgent problems. The executives started working together, sharing resources and expertise to turn the red lights back to green. They started managing the business instead of managing their own careers. This new honesty had a price. To fund his turnaround plan, called One Ford, Mullally had to mortgage everything the company owned, right down to the blue oval logo itself. It was the largest corporate loan in history at the time. Wall Street was skeptical. Pundits predicted a swift bankruptcy, but the plan worked because the plan was based on reality. The data was real. The problems were visible, and because the problems were visible, they could be solved. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, and the rest of the American auto industry went to Washington for a bailout, Ford stood on its own. They had seen the crisis coming. Their red charts had been a warning system. They had already secured the funding they needed. Ford survived. It thrived. This is a powerful story for a CEO. But what about you? You are likely not Alan Mullally. Admitting a knowledge gap in a meeting can feel less like a strategic move and more like painting a target on your back. There is a real risk. Some company cultures are still the old Ford. They punish vulnerability and reward false certainty. Navigating this requires skill. It requires strategy. Saying, "I don't know," is the opening line of a conversation. It's the phrase that comes after that determines whether you sound incompetent or brilliant. Saying, "I don't know," by itself is a dead end. Saying, "I don't know, but," is a launch pad. Observe the difference. I don't have that data right now. That's a statement of fact. I don't have that data right now, but I can get it for you by the end of the day. That's a statement of resourcefulness. I don't know the answer. That's a passive admission. That's a critical question I haven't fully considered. My initial thought is X, but I need to validate that with the technical team. I'll follow up with a recommendation. That shows deep thinking and respect for process. I don't know how to do that. That signals a dead end. I don't know how to do that yet, but here is how I would approach figuring it out. That demonstrates strategic thinking over specific knowledge. Each of these responses transforms a moment of potential weakness into a demonstration of strength. It reframes your value. You shift from being a repository of existing answers to being an engine for finding new ones. This is the difference between being a human database and being a problem solver. The first one is being automated. The second one is priceless. The goal is to replace the fear of being wrong with a relentless curiosity for what is true. This requires intellectual humility. Researchers have found that this trait, the ability to recognize that your own beliefs and knowledge are fallible, is one of the strongest predictors of good decision-making. People with intellectual humility are better learners. They are more open to new ideas. They are more effective collaborators because they create space for others to contribute. They are building teams that find the best answer. Instead of just defending their own, their confidence is rooted in their process for finding truth, not in the fragile belief that they already possess it. Think about the most effective people you've worked with. Are they the ones who have a slick answer for everything? Or are they the ones who ask the best questions? The ones who listen intently? The ones who are comfortable saying, "I hadn't thought of it that way before. Tell me more." They create an environment where it's safe for others to be honest. They create psychological safety. They create the conditions for Mark Fields to put his red chart on the screen. So, how do you build the courage to do this? Where does it come from when you're standing in that room and the silence is deafening? It comes from a fundamental shift in where you place your identity. You have to untangle your self-worth from the idea of being right. Your value is your ability to learn, to adapt, to contribute to a better outcome. Your job is to move the project forward, to serve the mission, to find the truth. Sometimes the most powerful way to do that is to illuminate a gap in your own knowledge, because it's often a gap the entire team shares. That knot in your stomach is a compass. It's pointing toward the unasked question. It's pointing toward the assumption that everyone else is making. It's pointing to the most important work that needs to be done, starting right now, today, this moment. Your goal is to find your red chart. Look at your own projects, your own responsibilities. Find the one area that is colored a comforting, convenient shade of green, but in your gut, you know is trending red. The thing you hope nobody asks about, the thing you're praying will just fix itself. That is your opportunity. That is where your real work begins. Your job is to find the most important truth that is being ignored. Find your I don't know. Frame it with a plan, put it on the table, and watch what happens. The change you create might be bigger than you can possibly imagine. The applause you hear might just be your own.